First off, I want to thank you all for the amazing support you've shown to the podcast. If you find it difficult to gain and finish hours-long 8 to 10 podcasts per week, please subscribe to Most Advanced Featured and Accurate Quick Podcasts, summaries on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can start with free trial, which lets you listen all the podcasts and later, just for the price of candy in most places. It will save you from spending 15 to 20 hours per week catching up. Here is a rundown on how to seduce anyone, build confidence, and become powerful, featuring Robert Greene by Steven Bartlett. Robert Greene's work has been referenced by the likes of Jay-Z, Kanye West, and Drake, and he has written 6 international bestsellers. He's been a renowned expert on power strategies for years.
Steven Bartlett reveals that seduction is a high form of power, allowing people to get what they want without others even realizing it. Seduction is a mating ritual that requires understanding the language of seduction, which is not just about words, but also about body language and psychology. Mastering this language can help people decipher others and build confidence. Robert Greene asks about the qualities of a great seducer, and Steven Bartlett explains that it's not just about physical appearance. He shares his own story of growing up in Los Angeles, feeling like an outsider, and being fascinated by the masks people wear. This curiosity led him to write about power and human nature. Steven Bartlett's journey to becoming a writer was not straightforward. He had many different jobs, from construction to being a tour guide, and was searching for experiences to fuel his writing. He met a book packager in Italy who asked him if he had any ideas for a book, and Steven Bartlett's response was to talk about the timeless game of power. This conversation led to the creation of his book, The 48 Laws of Power. The book's success was not immediate, but it eventually became a cult classic, selling over 2 million copies in the US. It was popularized by word of mouth, and even got a boost from reality TV shows and hip-hop artists like Jay-Z and 50 Cent. Steven Bartlett's feelings towards the book have not changed over time, and he believes it remains relevant today. Robert Greene asks about the definition of power, and Steven Bartlett explains that it's not just about politics or manipulation. Power is a feeling, an essence, and an emotion that comes from understanding oneself and being able to control oneself. It's a human need and desire to feel in control of one's life and to be able to influence others. Steven Bartlett believes that the feeling of powerlessness is more corrupting than the feeling of having power, and that it's essential to find a balance between the two. According to Steven, power is not about having control over others, but rather it's an internal force that allows you to control yourself. He believes that if you can't control yourself, you're in trouble, and that's why it's essential to learn certain things about your nature and tailor your appearances to fit in with the social realm. Steven emphasizes that appearances matter, and it's not idealistic to think that people should only be judged by what's inside them. He believes that humans are social animals, and that we naturally judge people by how they appear, dress, and behave. To succeed in the world, you need to be aware of this and learn to play the game.
Robert Greene points out that keeping up appearances can have a detrimental impact on happiness and fulfillment in life.
Steven agrees, citing examples of people in the entertainment industry who have to maintain a certain image even if it's not authentic to who they are. However, he also believes that it's okay to think of yourself as an actor, and that it's not wrong to play a role in life. Steven talks about the importance of being aware of the social realm and the need to separate your work life from your personal relationships. He believes that when working with a team, it's essential to share your vision and inspire them, but in competitive business environments, it's not always wise to reveal everything about your plans. Sometimes, it's better to create a little mystery and keep people guessing. Robert Greene asks if Steven has ever encountered anyone who doesn't play power games or have shadows and darkness in them. Steven responds that he doesn't believe anyone is immune to these aspects of human nature, and that it's essential to be aware of them to navigate the world effectively. Steven's book, The 48 laws of power is mentioned, and he explains that the laws are not meant to apply to every situation. He emphasizes the importance of being aware and having a strategic mindset, whether it's concealing or revealing your intentions. The conversation touches on the idea that humans are born actors, and that it's natural to play roles in life. Steven believes that it's essential to enjoy this aspect of life, but not get it confused with who you are in your essence. He also mentions that people need to be aware of the social realm and the need to separate their work life from their personal relationships. It also emphasizes that power is not just about controlling others, but also about controlling yourself and being aware of your own nature. He wasn't just a saintly figure, but he was very strategic about his methods, including non-violence and civil disobedience. Gandhi planned campaigns like the Salt March, knowing that it would have a terrible impact on the English public, who had a liberal-minded ideal of themselves. He deliberately had marches where Indian people would be beaten up by Englishmen, which would be read about in newspapers and seen in photographs, having a profound impact on public opinion. Gandhi thought in terms of strategy, and this is what made him so effective.
Robert Greene also wrote about Martin Luther King, who was inspired by Gandhi and had campaigns of civil disobedience. King was getting frustrated with the civil rights movement, and an advisor suggested having a massive march with elementary school and junior high school students. King's advisors were against it, but he thought deeply about it and decided to go ahead. He wanted the American public to see these children being water-hosed and beaten, which would have an incredible impact. Robert Greene believes that these icons like Gandhi and King reveal what he's talking about in human nature. He thinks that we all have flaws like irrationality, envy, aggression, and narcissism. Narcissism in particular is something that everyone has, but some people have it more than others. Greene believes that we should acknowledge our flaws and not be arrogant or think we're exempt from having a dark side. He thinks that we should be humble and recognize that we all have the same flaws. Robert Greene was asked if being a narcissist is objectively good or bad. He believes that it's neither because it just is. He explains that narcissism comes from a need for self-esteem, which we all need as children. However, if we go too deep into it, it becomes a problem. Greene thinks that we should take our self-love and turn it outward into empathy and love for others. He believes that we can make our dark side work for us, making it positive and productive. Robert Greene acknowledges that it's hard for people to confront their dark side, and some people put up walls to avoid it. He thinks that doing this podcast has helped him understand his own dark side, and he encourages others to do the same.
Steven Bartlett agrees that there is some truth to this, citing attachment theories that categorize the kind of attachment we have to our parents. He believes that children are resilient and resourceful, and they will find ways to compensate for a lack of love or attention. However, he also notes that some people who have had great childhoods can be spoiled and never learn how to get things on their own. Robert Greene asks Steven Bartlett why he wrote a book about seduction. Bartlett explains that seduction is a high form of power, making people feel pleasure and excited, which lowers their resistance to our ideas. He believes that seduction is a subtle and indirect way to influence people, rather than yelling or being aggressive. Bartlett wrote the book because he was interested in the psychology of seduction and why some people are good at it while others are awkward. Robert Greene asks Bartlett about the qualities of a great seducer. Bartlett distinguishes between cold seducers and warm seducers, preferring the latter. He believes that a great seducer is someone who plays a game rather than dominating or manipulating others. It's a back-and-forth quality that's not about domination, but about mutual pleasure and excitement. According to him, a great seducer is someone who is outer-directed, meaning they're not focused on themselves, but rather on the other person. They listen, absorb, and reflect back what the other person is saying, showing that they're attentive and interested. This is a powerful way to build connection, as people rarely feel truly seen and heard in their daily lives.
Robert Greene notes that this approach is particularly relevant in the modern world, where dating and romance have become more complicated.
He asks Steven Bartlett to elaborate on the attributes of someone who is not good at seducing, and Steven responds that one major turnoff is preaching and moralizing. This kind of behavior can come across as sanctimonious and superior, which is deeply anti-seductive. Steven also mentions that not being generous, both financially and spiritually, can be a major turnoff. He emphasizes the importance of being open and giving, rather than being stingy or self-absorbed.
Robert Greene points out that insecurity can also be a major obstacle to seduction, as it can make the other person feel awkward and uncomfortable. However, vulnerability can be a powerful seductive quality.
Steven explains that vulnerability is about being open and receptive to the other person, rather than being defensive or closed off. This can create a sense of connection and intimacy, as the other person feels seen and understood. He notes that this kind of vulnerability is not the same as insecurity, which is more about self-absorption and anxiety. Robert Greene asks Steven for advice on how to be great at dating, and Steven emphasizes the importance of putting effort into the process. He notes that many people think that love and romance should be effortless, but in reality, it's a kind of mating ritual that requires some creativity and imagination. He suggests that people should think of dating as a kind of theater or drama, where they can be creative and playful. Steven also notes that being too cheap or frugal can be a major turnoff, as it can signal a lack of generosity and openness. Robert Greene asks Steven if he thinks that young men are struggling to seduce women in the modern world, and Steven responds that he thinks this is partly due to the influence of internet porn. He notes that this can create unrealistic expectations and a sense of entitlement, which can be damaging. He emphasizes that seduction requires effort, patience, and creativity, and that people need to be willing to put themselves out there and take risks. Steven also notes that being a social animal is a skill that requires practice, and that people need to get out into the world and interact with others in order to develop this skill. He tells the story of Errol Flynn, a Hollywood actor who was known for his seductive abilities, and notes that Flynn's secret was his relaxed and confident attitude. He emphasizes that feeling comfortable and secure is key to seduction, and that people should strive to cultivate this kind of confidence and relaxation. He believes that confidence is something that can't be faked, and that it's built through actual actions and accomplishments. Steven Bartlett agrees, saying that fake confidence is like bravado, and that it's easy to spot. He notes that women in particular have had to deal with this for centuries, and can sense when someone is being insincere. Real confidence, on the other hand, comes from having skills and accomplishments that set you apart. It's not just about how you feel or what you say, but about what you can actually do. Bartlett believes that this kind of confidence is built through creating things, having success, meeting goals, and achieving things. He also notes that having some money can be helpful, but it's not necessary to be good-looking to seduce someone.
Robert Greene finds body language fascinating, particularly because it's something that's hard to fake. He notes that when he was younger and trying to pick up women, he would often lean in and shout in their ear, which was a sign of low confidence. On the other hand, when he was more confident, he would lean out and wait for the other person to lean in. These small subtleties can make a big difference in how others perceive use.
Steven Bartlett agrees that body language is important, and notes that it's something that we're wired to pay attention to from a young age. He believes that children are particularly good at picking up on body language, and that they can spot a fake from a mile away. He gives the example of a business meeting, where the boss will often lean back and have their arms open, while the employees will lean forward and be more nervous. He also notes that if you're at a party and someone's feet are angling away from you, it's a sign that they're not interested in talking to you. Robert Greene asks Bartlett about his book Mastery and why he wrote it. Bartlett explains that he was worried that people were losing the ability to make things and create something of value. He believes that being good with people is important, but that having great skill and being able to create something that lasts is even more important. He notes that young people often have the idea that everything should come quickly and easily, but that this isn't how the human brain operates. He explains that the brain requires time and repetition to build neural pathways and develop skill, and that this is why mastery takes so long to achieve. He believes that mastering something builds self-esteem and confidence, which is essential for achieving power and seduction. The first chapter of his book discusses discovering one's life task, which is not the same as finding one's passion. Passion is not a requirement for success, as it's the tedious and boring parts of learning a skill that ultimately lead to mastery. For example, learning to play the piano requires playing insipid tunes and scales, which can be boring, but it's the thrill that comes after a year of playing that makes it worthwhile.
Robert Greene shares an anecdote about meeting Stevie Wonder, who is a child prodigy and has been playing the piano since he was 11. Stevie Wonder's success is not due to passion, but rather the thousands of hours he has spent practicing and perfecting his craft. This is an example of how the human brain operates and how hours and hours of effort can lead to mastery. The key is to find something that one is deeply connected to, something that they have a love for. This could be anything from sports to music to writing. It's essential to feel a sense of connection to what one is doing, as this will help them get through the tedious and boring parts of learning. This might mean taking a job that pays less, but offers more opportunities for growth and development. It's essential to be outer-directed, observing the codes and conventions of one's field and learning from others. The first step in the apprenticeship phase is deep observation, which means being a sponge and absorbing everything around you. This involves learning the skills and heuristics of one's field, as well as observing the people around you and learning from them. The second step is skills acquisition, which involves learning by doing. This is how the human brain operates, and it's essential to work with the grain of the brain rather than against it. Learning by doing involves making things, creating things, and taking action, rather than just thinking or talking about it. Robert Greene shares a personal anecdote about having a stroke, which changed his life in a fundamental way. He was forced to learn new life skills and adapt to a new reality, which was a challenging but ultimately rewarding experience. This experience taught him the importance of resilience and adaptability, and the need to be open to new experiences and challenges. He recalled the incident, which was triggered by a wasp sting, and how it led to a blood clot that caused his stroke.
Stephen described the challenges he faced during his recovery, including frustration, depression, and a sense of helplessness. He shared how he had to relearn basic tasks like tying his shoes and buttoning his shirt, and how he had to rely on others for help. Stephen reflected on how his experience changed his perspective on life, making him more empathetic towards others who are struggling. He realized that he took many things for granted, like being able to walk his dog or swim, and that these abilities can be taken away at any moment. He encouraged others to appreciate their lives and not take anything for granted. Robert Greene noted that Stephen's journey was a powerful example of how to rebuild and redesign one's life after a traumatic event. Stephen shared his strategies for coping with his new reality, including meditation, gratitude, and finding a sense of purpose. He emphasized the importance of perspective and gratitude in maintaining peace of mind. Stephen also talked about the importance of human connection in his recovery, particularly his wife, who has been his primary caregiver. He acknowledged that having someone to support him has made a huge difference in his ability to cope with his condition. Robert Greene observed that Stephen's books often focus on the human condition, and that his experiences have given him a unique perspective on the nature of happiness. Stephen shared his insights on the importance of appreciating the little things in life, which he has learned to value after losing many of his physical abilities. He encouraged others to appreciate these small joys and not take them for granted. Stephen's conversation with Robert Greene was a candid and introspective look at his journey towards recovery and self-discovery. He shared his struggles and triumphs, and offered valuable insights on how to cope with adversity and find happiness in the midst of challenges. He's come to realize that the world isn't inherently good or bad, but rather just is. This idea, rooted in Zen meditation, has helped him connect with the world without judgment, finding beauty in its complexity. However, he's also aware of the darker aspects of human nature, which can twist and degrade even the most beautiful things. This dichotomy has left him with mixed feelings. Part of him is pessimistic about the future, while another part seeks seeds of hope, particularly in young people. He recalls a dream he had about 15 years ago, where he envisioned a future where humans had figured out how to live in harmony with the world. This dream has stuck with him, and he hopes that the spirit of rebellion in young people will bring about positive change. Bartlett's generation, he feels, has failed to create a better world, and he's counting on the next generation to make a difference. When asked about the happiest moment in his adult life, Bartlett reflects on the turning point when his book, The 48 Laws of Power, was published. The contrast between his previous struggles and the sudden success was intoxicating, and he's still riding the wave of that happiness. Although the euphoria has worn off, he's grateful for the journey and the opportunities that have come his way. Bartlett praises the interviewer, Robert Greene, for his great questions and listening skills, making the conversation enjoyable and insightful. Greene, in turn, expresses his admiration for Bartlett's work, particularly his willingness to confront difficult subjects and his vulnerability in sharing his thoughts and experiences.
Greene also takes a moment to thank the podcast sponsor Blue Jeans and mentions their new feature, Blue Jeans Basic, which offers high-quality video conferencing for free. He also shares his personal experience with changing his diet and introduces Huel's new product, Daily Greens, which contains 91 superfoods and nutrients. Although it's currently only available in the US, he hopes it will soon be available in the UK. Thank you for tuning in. Please click follow button. And just remember, subscription is only £1 or $1 per month. Leave a comment or review. Until next time, happy listening.